This is a Sales Geek Academia to Business Translation production. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are undertaking a really critical mission, cracking open some academic research focused on leader behavior, specifically how a sales manager's use of humor acts as this hidden but, well, incredibly powerful driver of team performance. Now, if you're a sales leader listening, you already know the environment is high pressure. I mean, seriously high pressure. Our source material actually cites a survey showing 73% of salespeople report high job stress. The demands are just constant, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's precisely why this research is so vital. In a field like sales, which is inherently dynamic, inherently stressful, the manager really acts as either the shock absorber or sometimes the accelerator of that.
Accelerator, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And academic studies consistently show that sales managers are like the primary influence on a salesperson's job satisfaction and their stress levels. And that, of course, directly hits things like quota attainment, turnover, absenteeism, the bottom line stuff.
Yeah.
So this specific research, it looks at a factor we often neglect, actually, the manager's sense of humor.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because humor, well, it's a minefield, isn't it? You might think you're telling a harmless joke, but how it lands, how the receiver hears it, that can be totally different.
Exactly. And that's the core insight here. The study stresses that the manager's intent is way less important than how the salesperson actually evaluates the humor.
How they experience it.
Precisely. And the study draws this really crucial distinction between two styles of humor. First, there's the positive style, which they call affiliative humor.
Affiliative, okay.
Yeah. This is the kind of humor that's meant to be inclusive. It's about building social support, maybe reducing tension, and just aiming for that genuine shared laugh. Think themes like inclusion, equality, integration.
Can you give us a quick example, like on the sales floor? What does that actually sound like?
Sure. Well, think of the manager who makes a light joke about a shared hassle, maybe the clunky CRM system everyone struggles with, or perhaps the dreaded Monday morning metrics meeting.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. It's lighthearted self-deprecation sometimes, or just observation. Kind of a Jerry Seinfeld approach, maybe, where the joke is on the situation, not aimed at a person. It creates a little moment of connection, of shared relief.
Okay, got it. So contrast that with the negative style. The research calls that aggressive humor, right?
That's the one. Aggressive humor. This involves, well, darker stuff. Sarcasm, maybe inappropriate language. It's intended to mock others, often without really caring about their feelings.
Ooh.
Yeah. The themes here are more about division, hierarchy, control. It's humor used to, put someone in their place or exert a bit of dominance.
So this is the manager maybe constantly using biting sarcasm or making cutting remarks about someone who missed quota, even if they try to wrap it up as just a joke.
Exactly. That sounds like the Don Rickles style, you could say. The laugh always comes at someone else's expense.
And in a high-pressure sales culture, that must just amplify things.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Using aggressive humor like that, it establishes a kind of fear-based environment. You're basically introducing unnecessary interpersonal risk into every single interaction. Doesn't matter if you, the manager, think you're just ribbing the team or trying to be funny.
Right. The impact is what counts. Okay, let's move to the most immediate findings then. The direct impact on that 73%. The salespeople already feeling stressed. How do these two styles hit their daily well-being?
Yeah, this is where you really see the power of this humor lever. The research confirms quite clearly that affiliative humor, the positive kind when it's used and received well, it significantly reduces salesperson job stress.
Reduces stress, okay.
Yeah. The positive inclusive humor acts as a genuine, accessible coping mechanism. It's something managers can actually use day to day to help relieve tension.
So it's not just like a nice to have, it's actually a necessary pressure release valve in that target-driven world. Makes sense. But what about the aggressive style, the Don Rickles approach?
Well, just as you'd expect, aggressive humor does the opposite. It significantly increases job stress levels.
Increases it?
Yeah. Managers really need to get this. When you use mocking or deprecating language, even jokingly, you signal a lack of psychological safety. The salesperson feels condescension or insensitivity, maybe, and it's coming from the person who controls their paycheck, their future opportunities.
That's a heavy combination.
It is. So you're inadvertently just cranking up their baseline stress level, makes them less focused, probably more reactive, not good for performance.
That's a really powerful translation. A manager thinks they're building toughness, maybe, but the data says they're actually just building stress. So this stress reduction from the good humor, the affiliative kind, does it wear off? Or is it consistently helpful?
That's a great question. The strength of the finding suggests it's pretty consistently beneficial as long as the humor is genuinely perceived as inclusive,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And because sales environments are so dynamic, the need for tension relief is pretty constant. So affiliative humor can provide these little daily micro-releases of tension, maybe stopping stress from building up into, chronic burnout.
That makes sense. And it leads us perfectly into the next part, the social mechanisms. Beyond just the immediate stress hit, the study looked at how humor affects job outcomes through two critical social factors.
Right. We need to understand the sort of social infrastructure of the team, how people relate. The first factor they looked at is social loneliness.
Loneliness.
Yeah, defined here as like feeling estranged, maybe rejected, or just lacking secure relationships with your colleagues. And this is super relevant today, isn't it? With so many sales teams being remote or hybrid or just spread out, isolation is a real job hazard now.
Definitely. And I guess the counterpoint to that isolation is collaboration, working together.
Exactly. That brings us to the second mediator, acceptance of cooperation. This basically measures how willing an individual salesperson is to share knowledge, maybe share leads, or just generally work jointly with their peers.
Which is critical these days.
Absolutely critical. As sales gets more complex, more solution-focused, you need those team-based efforts. Cooperation isn't optional anymore. It's often a requirement for success.
Okay, so we have loneliness and cooperation. How does the positive humor style, the affiliative one, influence these?
Well, this is where affiliative humor really shines, especially in tackling that modern isolation problem. When a manager consistently uses that light, inclusive joking, the research shows it significantly reduces the salesperson's perceived social loneliness.
Interesting. So it actively builds connection.
Yeah, it fosters cohesion, connection, makes even remote team members feel more supported, more included in the actual culture. And maybe even more importantly,
Yes.
it also significantly increases the salespeople's willingness to cooperate with each other.
Ah, okay. How does that work?
Well, think about social learning. The manager's inclusive style basically sets the standard. If the leader is open, relationship-focused, builds bridges with humor, then peers feel safer collaborating, sharing tips, sharing valuable knowledge. It role models the right behavior.
That makes perfect sense for the positive style. Okay, but the research had this really fascinating, almost counterintuitive finding about the aggressive humor here, didn't it?
It did. This was quite surprising.
It found that aggressive humor had any significant effect on either perceived social loneliness or acceptance of cooperation. Now, how can that be? Wouldn't mocking language, which we know raises stress, also immediately damage team bonds?
It's a really compelling question and honestly a bit puzzling. The researchers they hypothesize that maybe it's because salespeople are rationalizing the negative behavior somehow.
Rationalizing, how so?
Well, maybe if the manager is making fun of a competitor, or if the salesperson feels the joke isn't aimed directly at them but at someone else, they might not feel personally rejected or isolated from the team structure itself. They might just sort of downplay it mentally.
That's a really crucial distinction for leaders, isn't it? You might be jacking up your team's stress levels by being a bully, but they might not immediately stop cooperating because, well, they need the team structure to survive. Or maybe they feel like they aren't the target yet.
Exactly. The team bonds might appear intact on the surface, maybe for functional reasons, but the individual stress is still skyrocketing. The damage is internal.
Wow. We pause to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Okay, let's bring this home now. Connect it all to the bottom line metric for many, job satisfaction. And here, the study found something else genuinely surprising, I thought. Neither affiliative nor aggressive humor had a direct significant impact on overall job satisfaction. You can't just tell jokes and expect people to suddenly love their jobs. The effect seems to be entirely indirect.
That's right. And this is the nuance that managers really must grasp. Humor isn't some kind of magic satisfaction dust you can just sprinkle around.
Right.
Job satisfaction, according to this study, is driven primarily by those two social mediators we just discussed. Feeling connected versus lonely, and being willing to cooperate effectively.
So break that down. How do loneliness and cooperation link to satisfaction?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. When a salesperson feels socially lonely, their job satisfaction plummets, significantly and negatively related. Conversely, when they have a high acceptance of cooperation, when they're successfully teaming up, sharing resources, feeling part of a functional team, their job satisfaction soars. Significantly positive relationship there.
Okay, so putting it all together, the real value of that positive affiliative humor is its power to manage the social atmosphere first. By actively reducing loneliness and actively increasing cooperation. That's how the manager creates the conditions where job satisfaction can actually thrive. It's like an environmental effect.
You've got it. The manager's inclusive style is basically teaching the entire team how to build strong peer relationships. It's social learning theory in action.
The manager sets the social standard.
Exactly. If the standard is lighthearted inclusion, the team functions more cohesively. And that makes the work itself, even with all its pressures, feel more satisfying. It buffers the inherent stress of the job.
This really underscores the core lesson here, doesn't it? Your managerial humor, it's not some trivial personality quirk. It's a critical managerial factor. It influences real performance drivers like stress and team collaboration.
Absolutely. Which means sales leaders need practical, actionable steps based only on these confirmed findings, not just gut feelings about humor.
Okay, let's lay those out. What are the key takeaways?
All right, based purely on this research, here are 3 immediate steps sales leaders should think about implementing. First, you have to be strategically affiliative.
Strategically affiliative, meaning?
Meaning, deliberately integrate that inclusive humor during team interactions. Meetings, check-ins. Use light jokes centered on common experiences, equality. This is proven to quickly foster that social cohesiveness and directly increase the willingness of your salespeople to actually cooperate.
Okay, be deliberately positive and inclusive. That's number 2.
Second, eliminate aggressive humor entirely.
Please stop it.
Pretty much. Given the confirmed direct link between aggressive, mocking, or critical humor and increased job stress, this style is just a net negative. It risks employee well-being, long-term performance. It really needs to be removed from the management toolkit, full stop.
Got it. No more punching down, even as a joke. And the third takeaway.
And finally, actively combat social loneliness. The data clearly shows loneliness is a major predictor of low satisfaction, which hits the bottom line.
Especially with remote teams.
Especially then. So, if you lead a remote or decentralized team, you need to schedule mandatory, regular check-ins, structure inclusive team time, maybe off-sites if possible, or even just structured virtual coffee hours. The goal is to ensure every salesperson feels connected, feels supported. Address that isolation head-on to reduce stress and boost satisfaction.
So the ultimate takeaway for you, the sales leader listening, is really that your humor is a communication mechanism. It signals where power resides, what kind of culture is acceptable. You should be using it to build bridges in community.
Indeed. If you start treating humor as a strategic tool rather than just a spontaneous impulse, you can significantly improve the health, the well-being, and ultimately the performance of your entire team.
And here's something to think about this week. If that aggressive humor doesn't necessarily break team cooperation immediately, but it still skyrockets individual stress, how much hidden damage might you be doing? Especially to your highest performers, maybe the ones too focused on quota to actually complain about how the jokes make them feel. That's a question worth mulling over. This was another Sales Geek Academia to Business Translation production.